When people from other dialect areas notice that and can pick up on that and identify a Canadian by it.
One of the canal's traffic supervisors is Clifford Paul.
About what time, that one at 1830 is going to fuel dock. About what time is the next one due?
1900. Does Zimia change in Port Colborne?
I'll have to check that out with the office.
All right.
Hello. Joe tell you that we're going to have about 3 turnbacks in there before we have any downbounds?
You hear similar characteristic short vowel sounds in the pronunciation of caught, caught, and light, light, and the frequent Canadian pronunciation of center for center, 20 in Toronto for 20 in Toronto.
When people are making fun of Canadians, the sound they pick up on is something that's called Canadian A. It's a strange sort of pause marker or hesitation marker.
Hello, Algo Bay, West Side, Big One, eh? Okay, thank you.
Ron Carroll is one of the veteran lockmasters on the canal.
For many Canadians, in very casual conversations, you can hear, like, A all over the place. That A seems to dominate, especially to people to whom it's unfamiliar. Of course, Canadians hear it all the time and don't pay much attention to it, but it's a feature that people like to pick up on.
Well, steel cuttings, they'll smolder, but there've never been no actual flame to them, but they're hot. They run hot, All you can see is a kind of steam rising off of it. You can't actually see the flame, And this is the way it is while it's being transported.
There's your Canadian A. Look at those steel cuttings, and the other times he uses that A, it comes in as a kind of indication that he wants to be certain that you're following and paying attention.
Most Canadians like to say A a lot, whereas Americans, they say, huh? Canadians say A.
Just like breathing in and breathing out. For Canadian, they don't notice it so much, but other people do.
I got an old mule and her name is Sal, 15 miles on the Inland Canal. She's a good worker and a good old pal, 16 miles on the Inland Canal. We've hauled some barges in our day, full of lumber, coal and hay, and we know every inch of the way. One more trip and home we'll go. No bridge, everybody down. Low bridge, or we're coming to a town. And you'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Inland Canal.
Westwards for thousands of inland Canadian miles, through the vast provinces of Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia, in the streets and over the air, there's a general Canadian accent that began here in Niagara. The English of the Niagara region of southern Ontario spread west from this loyalist heartland, leveling out over time into a standard Canadian English. Across the border, the same process was happening in the United States. As the 19th century unfolded, the restless citizens of the new republic began pushing back their frontiers, north and south, and overland to the west. But their first highways were the continent's mighty rivers. River society raced with vivid new jargon. A roustabout was a deckhand. Today, he works on an oil rig. Slaves were sold down the river. A showboat was a Deluxe steamer with onboard entertainment. A riverboat, wrote Mark Twain, is like a wedding cake without the complications. The captain and pilot of the Delta Queen are Southerners who know the 4,500 miles of these treacherous waters by heart.
How's she going?
Boy, it seems to be a little bit out of place for down 11 foot here, Kim.
Looks like that reef's running out past that buoy.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull her on out.
The west bank of the Mississippi was known as the Outlands. The Old English word outlandish now took on a new connotation.
Well, the outlands were this west of the Mississippi River, unsettled, wild animals and all this. And the people became, the term outlandish was applied to them because they wore coonskin hats and buckskin clothes and moccasins, and they were very individualized. And the word outlandish later meant somebody was rather rough and rowdy and wore an unusual dress.
There were gamblers chancing the wheels of fortune up and down the river.
Gambler's life I do admire, do-da, do-da. The best of rum they do require, oh, the do-da day. The vodka shots begin to town, the do-da, do-da. I played all night and I cleaned them out, oh, the do-da day. I'm bound to play all night, I'm bound to play all day. I bet my money on the ace and king, who did bet on the trade.
American English owes much to that legendary individual, the Mississippi riverboat gambler. The most famous American card games, faro and poker, developed in French-speaking New Orleans, and so did the familiar terms ace, deuce, trey.
An ace, queen, 10.
Betting was so much a part of the frontier life that then as now, many Americans didn't just say yes, they said, you bet. The mother of the novelist Anthony Trollope observed that no boat left New Orleans without one or two gentlemen whose profession it was to drill the 52 elements of a deck of cards to profitable duty.
Captain, just put it in a pile. Cut him.
Cut him.
Long and strong, huh?
Long and strong. Deal the cards.
Card dealing has given us phrases like square deal, fair deal, raw deal, and the derisive big deal.
There's five, and there's five, and there's five.
In front of the dealer was a buckhorn-handled knife, called simply a buck. A player who didn't want to risk dealing would pass it to the next player, or pass the buck.
Here we go.
Card sharpers who gave dealing a bad name might stack the deck, or deal from the bottom of the pack.
Two for you.
Three.
A player on a winning streak would need a poker face, especially when his neighbor called his bluff.
Your eyes are rolling around like you got something going over there. Looky here. You think I'm not a lover? Look at all these hearts I got here, gang. There's one right there. There's another one right there. There's another one right there. There's another one right there. And there's another one right there. If anybody beats that, I'm gonna start crying. You get that.
Ante up.
Ante up.
Ante up means to put money in the pot before the betting begins. The phrase for openers meant an early bet. To up the ante was to raise the stakes.
Jacks to better. Just straight.
Oh, yeah. Holy cats, who dealt this mess?
You did.
Okay,
Me?
how many you
Yeah,
take?
I'll take three.
Take three. All right, that means a pair. Okay, what do you take?
I want 4 of them. Don't get so serious.
When stockbrokers talk about blue chip investments, or hitting the jackpot, or cashing in their chips, they're using